In this video, I'm going to show you how to add a relative fiscal year column to your date table in Power BI. Firstly, let's take a very quick look as to why you may want to do that. We're looking at a profit and loss report in Power BI, and in my top right hand corner I've got a fiscal year date slicer, and that's driven off my date table, and on it I've got a filter which is a relative fiscal year column, and I've set that to be 0 or -1. In other words, I'm filtering the entire report so that I'm only ever displaying either the current fiscal year or the previous fiscal year. And as the fiscal year rolls over, so too will the report and this slicer. So that's one reason why. There may be many other reasons why you find this column very useful. Let's take a quick look at how you build that. In a previous video, and you can see a link to that video in the notes, we created a simple date table with the date column, relative day, fiscal year and period. We also had in our model a date to day value, which just basically returning today's date, and the year-end months value, which we set as 3 for March. So what we'd like to do is just to add one more column into this table, which is a relative fiscal year, which is basically, if you think about it, it's the fiscal year value minus the fiscal year of today. So actually all we need to do by way of a new calculation is to calculate the fiscal year of today. And to do that, we can take the calculation we did before, but instead of calculating it off the, so if we take the fiscal year calculation, instead of calculating it off the date value, we calculate it off today's date value. And it's as simple as that. So let's take a look. If we cut and paste that code, so we're going to use that, and I cancel that and go to add a new column, new custom column, and yes, I'll add an insert the step, so I'll keep the fiscal year and relative fiscal year columns together, and we'll call this relative fiscal year, and I'll paste the code in there. Of course, that's just going to return the fiscal year value as before. So if I substitute, instead of the date column, this date to day value that we previously calculated, both there and here, and see what that gives us. That gives us the fiscal year for today. Now for the relative fiscal year, it's basically the fiscal year minus the fiscal year value for today. So let's go back in and edit that. And that's simply the fiscal year value minus that. And I can set the type, put a comma in, and int 64.type. I want to set the type to integer, and let's just tidy it up in Advanced Editor so we don't have this horrible added custom. We can tell ourselves what we're doing. So we say added relative fiscal year. We need to put that in there as the reference as well. And we can see we've added the named step there. So now actually all we need to do is close and apply, and we've added our relative fiscal year column into our date table.